Hi, Ula. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me. I guess before we get into the conversation, it makes sense for us just to introduce ourselves, so anybody that doesn't know us knows who we are and why we're here. So, I'm Simon Spire, founder of Data Agents, and we work with marketers who are sitting on more data and more AI tools than ever, but are struggling to make faster, better decisions. And our work's about trying to sort of close that gap. Outcomes first, technology second. And I set up this precision brief series really as a sort of honest conversations with people that I know and trust that are experts in actually what moves the needle when it comes to marketing, data, technology. And really, we're trying to provide useful tips and advice from people who've driven outcomes at the sharp end. And we've obviously known one another for a while, worked together a bit, but why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are and your experience?
Hi, my name is Ula Nairne. I'm Global Vice President at Stelia, responsible for the commercial side of the business, and especially focusing on media, entertainment, and brands or retail verticals. And Stelia is an agentic AI company, full stack, enterprise grade AI, and also specializing in infrastructure and in networks, headquartered in London. So, in terms of my background, I'm working with AI for over 15 years. I was exposed to AI quite early on, where most of the people didn't have access to research or the work that's been done around AI. It was initially used for security and in Europe and the US for predicting certain events. But then I was managing investment fund and investing a lot in AI technologies, not only for media and entertainment, but also around medical devices and different life sciences products. Last 6, 7 years, I've been working a lot around media, entertainment, videos, video commerce, virtual worlds, and that's how we met with Simon. Around
Yeah, exactly.
one of my biggest clients was Samsung, and the agencies around Samsung. So that's how we met.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where I wanted to start because you've always, as long as we've known one another, you've been kind of at the frontier of AI. And I guess Stelia continues to be at that sort of frontier as well. So you've kind of seen every major wave of AI commercialization. And I guess I have this sort of view that agentic deployments shift work rather than eliminate it. So particularly when I'm talking to marketers, it's about how AI augments the marketing team. How do agents
Mm.
take volume and routine? Humans look after exceptions, judgment, and so that that's the sort of change that we're seeing. But it's also how I
Mm.
sort of frame things. And I just wondered, you're obviously kind of seeing things at the bleeding edge. Is that what you think is, do you think that's true, or do you think there is this sort of genuine replacement, going on within the market, and that's ultimately where the market's going?
Well, first of all, the market is moving very, very fast.
Yeah,
Being in that space for so many years, I can see it's the speed is faster and faster almost each year. And even being, at the forefront of what's happening in the industries around AI, it's still really difficult to be at the top of what's changing around us and what's AI enabling or replacing or creating for us. So yeah, so that's true. There's always sort of being and translating technology into business and business into technology. That's the space where I am at the moment.
yeah,
And in terms of the replacement, I think probably from about since OpenAI ChatGPT has been released to the world, we moved very much from prompting and kind of individual users and testing and playing with AI to building lots of tools
Hmm.
which now company are using. But currently, what I see is that there's so many tools that the the businesses, enterprises started to need something that coordinating them all. So kind of
Yeah.
orchestration layer. And this is what I'm working at the moment with companies, trying to replace all the fragmented operational layers and repetitive workflows and inefficient coordination across all of that stuff that's currently available in the market into like smooth operation that is governed, measurable, and enterprise, like operating models. But saying that, I would say, because there's lots of discussion about that this whole operational layers will replace human.
Mm.
Where I can see that is about using not replacing a person, but the friction around repetitive work, and I can see that actually the role of the human in this process, it elevates
Yeah.
like to judgment, to creativity, to the governance, to like commercial decision making. So yeah, obviously some roles might be lost, but some of them will be created. I think the question is also about the change of the leadership in the process. So not only just replacing certain parts of the operation workflows within the companies, but moving from command control into like, you know, coordination, into cooperation, into orchestration, and being that kind of conductor role at the leadership process, which what I can see is about trying to let go and let some of the system working within the company independently, agentically, but at the same time trusting the systems that companies are using. So, the crucial thing is the governance and the security and the safety of the operations and the agentic workflows that we're implementing to the companies. And the second challenge I can see at the moment of the market is around doing this in a cost-effective ways.
Hmm.
Because at the moment is okay, fine. We started using AI, but going from tools to right to scaling AI. But obviously the costs here are very, very important, and we need to now work towards better infrastructure and going below the tools to put that in the most efficient and optimized way we can. And those two challenges, I think, at the moment are the biggest questions for the businesses and the biggest area to work around.
Yeah. Yeah, really interesting. I think both of those points may be worth us kind of elaborating on. I think on the specific sort of question about augmentation and replacement, I
Mm,
think from a sort of org chart perspective, it isn't really about replacement. It's who gets redeployed and what is that higher leverage work. But I think what you were saying
yeah.
about orchestration, I see that
Mm,
becoming increasingly important. And I think it's a bit like a decade ago, we saw this explosion in MarTech and AdTech and all of these different
yeah.
tools. And it was so hard to actually build a strategy around actually, this is what our stack looks like. These are the things that
Yeah.
we wanted to deliver. And I think that's just becoming even harder now because AI is becoming so pervasive. Um, and, the speed of, releases and new features and things, it's so hard to keep up with. So navigating that, I think like you're right, governance is the only way that you can start to actually, have some
Mm,
sort of control so that you
Yeah.
see the benefit in terms of growth. My view is that AI is a value driver rather than an efficiency play. But you are doing things in a right way that's transparent and understood across the organization. Are you,
Hmm.
I guess, from the clients that you're working with, is there a sort of best practice way that they're setting up in terms of thinking about governance and having the right processes, workflows, and choices in place? And is there a particular part of the business that's driving that? Is it tech led, or is it coming more from the sort of commercial teams?
Yeah, so you can see varieties of things at the moment. The company's trying to figure out what is the best way for them.
Yeah,
There is no like a one recipe for everyone. I would definitely not use the word replace, because to me is like more redesigning the operating models around, you know, not just simply cutting headcounts, right? But kind of build everything around the speed, about the intelligence, and about accountability. But the biggest, focus at the moment for the companies, and that's where my current company, Stelia, is beautifully fitting into the market, is to provide like a one platform, one
yeah,
place where you can have all the models, all the tools. You can, in real time, track how much different workflows cost, how many tokens they're burning, and then plan it in an efficient way in one place, right? Because it's only when you compare everything in one place, you are able to know and see what you actually are doing, and kind of keeping control of your own AI, agentic AI space for your company. So you're not like locked in with particular companies, because the technology is moving so fast. You want to have that flexibility to move around and use the tools that are the best for the job, but they also cost efficient, and they also meeting the safety and security, and they're compliant, for the company, and the type of data, and type of customers that the companies are dealing with. And this is like a breakthrough now, what I can see at the market, that this is where everything is heading, because companies are lost. There's so many things available. It's almost impossible to test everything. And you need that granularity when you can actually have the tools that you need in a very easy and accessible way.
yeah.
And that's kind of moving as well the decision making within the company. For example, for like CMOs, right? It's not anymore that area sits with the IT only.
Mhm.
The CMOs and CROs and COOs and everyone who's kind of using anything built with agentic AI, they might not be an expert, in the infrastructure, but they need to be at least aware on commercial costs of like infrastructure decisions within the company, because that will affect, their margin, even their
Totally.
cost to the market. Yeah. But yeah, it would be really interesting to see, actually, Simon, what you see in terms of, because you're working with so many companies and CMOs. Like, do you think they are more excited about like productivity, or they're more afraid about losing control? Like, where do you see the
Yeah,
market
I mean
now?
it varies depending a bit on the kind of profile of the business, but also I would say the sort of ambition of the business and the leadership as well. Um, I think, marketers are always most interested in the brand and the customer and growth and those sort of things. So I think they do tend to orientate more around, how can we use this new emerging world of capability to do, things differently in terms of reaching customers, understanding customers,
Mm.
building relationships with customers, acquiring customers. And I think
Yeah.
that is where the kind of the interest and the excitement is, because it allows us to work with clients to do things better, faster, cheaper
Mm.
than ever before. But it's interesting what you were saying, because I think as things start to mature, we're sort of
Mm.
moving from choices within my marketing clients around, oh, do we use OpenAI, or should we work with Anthropic, or do we give everybody
Mm.
Copilot licenses? And I
Yeah.
think that conversation is done now. And so
Yeah.
actually,
Agree.
what I'm seeing is that some infrastructure decisions are now marketing costs, and therefore the marketers are being brought into making those decisions. So you touched on tokens, that
Mm.
there's now that's a unit economics metric. And if you're doing things at scale, that changes the margin on every customer interaction. Also, the value in any digital experience is that sort of latency between the signal and the action. And
Mm.
again, there's a cost involved in how quickly you can identify that signal, make a decision, and affect it. And so I am seeing that marketers are having to move into some of those more, let's call them technical conversations, because it is a direct cost to
Yes.
marketing. And I sort of see, there has been this sort of, I think it's quite sort of naive sort of idea of token maxing, where, people are being encouraged just to burn tokens, but actually now people are seeing that that's very expensive. And so I like your idea of that sort of orchestration, and actually being able to have visibility on what's going on and how things are performing, because only
Mm.
with that measurement can you really understand performance and return on investment, and how you make things better.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And that's why, we're moving towards that direction, because you need to have the comparison, one to one. And what I see very often at the moment, companies, because they're using different tools, they pay sometimes twice or three times for the same capabilities, right? Or they always use like the newest model for,
Yeah,
for a particular model, which there are some jobs that they don't need that speed of computation on that, advancements. The older model will be, very good for some
yeah,
kind of automation jobs as well. So having the tool that helps you to optimize what you use, how you use, which tool is the best for the job at that moment of time, right? And also looking at efficiency, cost efficiency at the same time, that gives enterprises and the companies like power to use what they need to use and they want to use, not everything at the
yeah,
same time.
yeah. And are there, with the power of your platform
Mm.
and that visibility that it gives, are there sort of new metrics, new KPIs that you're able to surface to help make those decisions and inform it? Because I think you're totally right. Everybody kind of defaults just to using the latest model, but that's sort of the
Mm.
most expensive and the slowest. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not the right thing for every particular task. So I just wonder, is there ways that you can actually measure that with that sort of overarching view that you have?
Well, our operation system was just released last month, so
Okay.
it's kind of like a job in making and trying
Yeah.
to also understand how the market could use it, and what companies can squeeze out of having everything in one place, and actually seeing visually, how they consume tokens and how much it costs them. But I think moving forward, it's a really good tool for the companies, especially for the CFOs, to sign off certain project or certain piece of work at the company when you can predict costs
Yeah.
towards the future. right? Because you're able to test different workflows using different models at the same place and see how much energy, how much tokens they consume, and you're able to build the most efficient system, then freeze it and kind of use it moving forward with some efficiency and optimizations measures. Tracking is, the pricing is changing constantly, across those tools. So you still need to kind of like keep an eye on them. But in some sense, you can find like the sweet spot for what you want to do, and then you can sort of predict the cost moving forward, which is much easier than to get sign off by the CFO of the company, rather than, especially for the companies that they use like lots of volumes, and they have no direct impact of how certain tools or models will be consumed, right?
Mhm.
You can just build those guardians around it, and this is just easier to understand from the companies. But yeah, we're still learning. So that's why I'm really excited, for example, to go now to Cannes Lions and get into direct conversation with different companies and to see how useful this is for them and how it can make the work easier. But I think the biggest advantage of platforms like that, of the operation system like that, is not only the cost, not only having everything in one place, but also having things ready, to the market, because having those things already built in on one platform, you can literally cut costs of developing new workflows, from like, let's say, a year to a few months. So it's a very good also place to work for engineers and and IT departments to speed up wherever they're building for the company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're definitely in the right space. I think the question I come back to, because it's one that is always asked, is the one that comes from the CFO, and it's all about how do we know if this is really incremental? And I was interested in
Yeah.
what you were saying, because the only way you know if it's incremental is if you're doing test and learn, and you've got that discipline of looking old versus new and setting up certainly marketing activities in the
Yeah.
right way. And I think that discipline of, you know, having that rigor and that discipline around what are the things that we want to learn? How are we going to measure? How are we going to be confident in what we're measuring?
Mm.
It's the only way to get that answer that survives a conversation with the CFO and
Oh,
justifies
yes,
that performance.
absolutely. You need to look through, you only can defend this through three lenses, the cost reduction, the speed to market, and the revenue impact. If you don't have any of those, then for the CFO, it's just like, innovation theater, right? It's not real. And that's how I can see that in the market. And that's why I'm also pushing that in my own company, that, we need to start also talking business value language
Yeah,
about technology more and more, because it's all that techie language around us, right? But we need to kind of get the translation so it's easier understood as well. The business impact, the ROI impact of certain tools available for the CMOs and CFOs to use it in the business terms.
yeah, I think that's right. I think most of the disappointment when it comes to AI has been kind of the promise and the pitch that's
Mm,
kind of coming out of Silicon Valley, and then
yeah.
actually what gets used. And there's always this gap between what the buyer thinks they're signing for and then
Mm,
actually what usage looks like, 6 months later.
yeah.
And I think that's because the pitch kind of, sells the outcome. The contract then is about capability, and
Mm,
actually the thing in the middle needs to be the use cases, the data, the customer experience you're trying to deliver, the strategy, all of those sort of things. And there is a bit
Yeah,
of a
it needs to be made
disconnect at the
right,
moment.
right? Yeah, it's not like experimentation anymore. If you implement something on a company level, you need to be solid. You need to be built on a proper solid foundations. Starting from silicon choices, and where the data is put, and how the networks are built. That's why you have so many like hybrid solutions now, just because if you want to have real time, you need to have that data close to the place where you want the real time, right? So there's lots of innovation around actually, how to build all that infrastructure to have that real time with such a vast amount of data, right? And then at the top of that, we're building those tools and other things. But very often I was just like back from possible event in Miami, right? And very often the conversations are, they finish on the moment when you talk about how fantastic the tools we have, what fantastic work they can do for you. But the discussions about, how efficient it is, how the infrastructure is built underneath, it's quiet. Not everybody from especially like media entertainment industry can talk about it because it's difficult. But we need that awareness on CMO level for sure to know not the details about the infrastructure, but the cost, the commercial kind of consequences of those decisions, and we need more education around that as well.
Yeah, and you're obviously front and center with some huge enterprise brands, and you're also you've been at Miami, and I know you're sort of out there always sort of meeting the people doing some of the best work. Are there any brands either that you're working with or that you've kind of seen that you think are closest to kind of getting it right?
That's a good question. Yeah, we work with like big companies like Lenovo and Nokia and Nvidia on the infrastructure side and trying to build something robust, for like their customers.
Right.
But I'm also working directly with media agencies and brands and streamers as well. And yeah, so there are certain pieces of work have been created and done, especially, for example, beginning of this year, I went to the CES in Las Vegas, the biggest tech event in the world, right? And I went to the media agency space, and I was absolutely, positively surprised how many agencies actually released the marketing suite operation systems, which they obviously look fantastic, for the brands. They make a big difference to have like one platform to deal with the agency and doing lots of different, from creative work or to programmatic and everything else. But I still see that the question about the infrastructure and how it's built and how it's kind of connected from different pieces is still too fragmented and not answering the questions. And it could be sometimes as well confusing for the brands, because if you don't know how things are built, it's very difficult to kind of compare them one-to-one. Totally. So even making a choices for the brands, which agencies to work with, it takes again lots of time to kind of trying to find out more about how the system is built, how safe it is, how the data flows there, and all those questions I think is still hopefully this year to be answered. And because you need to start having some benchmarks, and you can see the speed of the market is so fast because everybody wants to be seen as the most innovative, right? The one that's actually, on the front line of AI and this innovation. But very often the cost is, are we building the house from the cardboard,
Yeah, I
from wood,
totally agree.
how
Yeah,
solid it is
yeah,
long term, how scalable it is when you have suddenly lots of data, tested against those systems. So I think we are going in a very good direction, but it's still, we need some time to build like a solid, trusted system and some benchmark for the companies to as well compare, those different systems and see where they want to be, who they want to use, and how easy and frictionless the systems are. So
yeah.
that's
I
my
think that
observation.
I think that's
Um,
right. I think when I look at those sort of solutions being provided by the agencies, certainly the holding companies, I think they're sort of I think they're window dressing, really. They're there to sort of show AI
mm,
innovation, but they're black boxes really in terms of what's really there.
yeah,
So I think they're very, they look very slick, they look very impressive, but from the brand side, I think you need to be able to trust and understand intimately what's going
mm,
on in there and how it's leading to better decisions, better performance, better intelligence, all of those sort of things. And ironically, exactly as you say, the only way to really understand that is by working and testing multiple platforms. But actually, that's the exact opposite of kind of what those platforms are built to do. They kind of want to lock you in to a
yeah.
platform, so that all of your marketing spend goes through them. So I think yeah, I think the openness and the transparency is spot on, and also what we always focus on, and our sort of mantra is let's focus on the specific use cases that are going to make a difference, because you can measure them, they can build confidence that this is the right thing to be doing. There's learning that come from it. And then where
Hmm.
you take that learning, whether it's into another platform, another type of investment, wherever, that's kind of a downstream decision, but at least you've got the evidence at that point.
Yeah, and the king of that is data, right? We
Yeah,
know that. Who owns the data, it will be doing well in the agentic world. And you can see different shifts as well in terms of where agencies are, where brands are. It gives a bit more power, to the source of data. And I think we almost like in a transition period now where we're getting used to what's new. We're seeing great opportunities, what we can do with that. And finally, when you talk to companies starting using agentic AI and implementing that, we very often start thinking how we can improve what we have, right? Because that's the safest way. Just replace pieces of the workflows with AI, and it will optimize and will make more efficient. What AI actually improve is you can build like completely new workflows, new systems.
yeah,
And this is something that's coming, but at the moment it's just fixing a little bit what we have now, rather than properly innovating with the full capabilities that agentic AI can bring in to the
yeah,
business.
yeah, I agree. I liked the 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 person with the data will win in the agentic era. I think that's spot on. And that's
Well,
probably a good place for
you've
us
got the
to,
data agents,
well,
and you work with data
there's
for
no coincidence there.
years, right? So
It's definitely my point of view. It's probably a good place for us to pause, Ula. Thanks so much for your time. We've
Oh, it's a
covered a lot of
pleasure.
ground, and I love the conversation. So maybe we can do it again in a few months' time and reflect on how things have moved on even further, and what that means for brands and enterprises. But thanks so much
Oh,
for your
I
time.
love that. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ula.